so high.
See what you see?
Oh no, there's breakfast here.
To rescue your little toe. You okay?
If it, sorry? What about the pram? Here's the mouse. No.
That is a strategic.
Isn't that great? This is on my walk to work.
Right that way.
Yeah.
That's one shit. इसमें 10 पाउंड का टिकट है। Install music now. Je veux aller dans le tapis pour voir les... What did you get?